Hey there, friends. Put out a couple of videos over the last couple of days that have gotten a little bit of fire, a lot of attention, a lot of people talking about race relations in the United States. We're constantly being scolded by this administration that we're all white supremacists, that we're all racist. And I say we all, I don't mean just white people. Black people are being called racist. Hispanic people are being called racist. I'm sorry. Black people are being called white supremacists. Hispanic people are being called white supremacists. It seems that everybody is being called a white supremacist. And of course, again, going by what Joe Biden says, that is the single greatest threat to the United States.
The most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Well, I think I have figured out where that real risk of white supremacy actually exists. Here's a story that might help you understand what I'm getting at.
Deja Taylor is accused of lying on her gun permit record. Federal prosecutors say she claimed she did not use marijuana at the time she bought her gun. These federal charges are now on top of charges Taylor faces on the state level. Legal analyst Ed Booth helps us break down how the federal charges could actually impact her case.
It's another layer to the already complex investigation into the mother of the 6-year-old Rich Neck Elementary student who police say shot his first-grade teacher. Federal attorneys have joined the case after charging 25-year-old Deja Taylor for lying on her gun permit records in July 2022. Police say her son used that same 9mm handgun to shoot his teacher, Abby Swerner, this past January.
These are all facts that the prosecution can use to put together their case.
In the latest court documents, prosecutors say Taylor checked no on the box asking if she used marijuana, knowing she did at the time. Legal analyst Ed Booth says while marijuana is legal in Virginia with limitations, it still does not apply to federal law. Taylor's attorney, James Ellenson, says his client will plead guilty to the federal charges, which Booth says may help her case.
And that really governs what someone might receive in terms of punishment in federal court. The guidelines kind of cover everything, and they take into account whether you accepted or didn't accept responsibility. So it certainly would help her if she were to be convicted.
Gun control and a lot of these anti-gun laws have the biggest negative impact on poor people. And that includes people, and I didn't say just black people, I didn't say just minorities, but that includes minorities, Hispanics, white people. Poor people is who I'm talking about. All these draconian laws that are tossed around out there affect people with less means. That also means that they live in bad neighborhoods. Being in bad neighborhoods, they need to have quicker access to their guns. So that's why it's hard for me. Your knee-jerk reaction wants to be that when a parent has a gun that a child gains access to, you immediately want to say, stupid parent. In some cases, in many cases, it likely is. But you have to also assume that they're weighing the risk versus reward based on the neighborhood they live in. So if they're living in a really ratty, crappy neighborhood, they probably need fast, easy access to that firearm. Unfortunately, they're giving up the safety inside that home for that fast, easy access. I know that's not across the board and the same in every single circumstance. I'm just giving you an example as to why some people need quicker, faster access to a firearm in a home. You understand the lady that I'm talking about. Let me explain a little bit more about what's happening to her. Did she tell them that she was a marijuana user? If she did, why? That was stupid. Was she using it in some kind of medicinal way? Which is probably, it could be. Did she have a license for it somehow? I know in Virginia it's legal. So was there a way that she was taken medicinally where they knew that she was taking? I guess that could be possible. Now, this is a federal form, so you may be wondering in Virginia, if it's legal, she's not lying if she says an unlawful user. Well, technically, according to the United States, because they are the federal government, they still have that as a Schedule 1 or whatever the really bad drugs is, like heroin. They still consider marijuana like heroin. So they still have it listed there. Well, according to them, she was a user, unlawful user. They weren't talking about Virginia. They were talking about the federal government because, again, a federal form here. Now, why do I bring all this up talking about the white supremacy? Because we all know our favorite son, Hunter Biden, was hooked on crack and bought his firearm and filled out the exact same thing that this lady did, and she answered it the same way that Hunter Biden did. This lady's getting charges pressed against her, will likely either get a penalty, a suspended sentence, possibly serve time, Now, the ATF didn't seem real helpful in this either. In fact, they seem to be really covering up for Hunter when they're perfectly okay with throwing the book at this black lady. ATF said officials at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives were reportedly skeptical of bringing gun-related charges against Hunter Biden due to his having no prior criminal history. I'd like to point out that why are we bringing charges against this lady if we didn't based on Hunter Biden's previous criminal history or lack thereof? Because if this lady passed a criminal background check, which she did when she purchased the gun, that meant she had no background check or criminal history that would have prevented her from buying the gun either. So if Hunter's reason for not being pursued by the ATF is because he didn't have a prior record, then why are you pursuing this lady? Isn't it equal justice, right? Isn't the scales of justice, aren't they blind? Well, apparently not so in this case. At least maybe they're not colorblind. Because clearly, either we're dealing with Hunter Biden, who is a super special person, or because he's white. I tend to believe it's because he's a super special person, but when you look at who his dad is, it may be because he's white, and that he's okay with this black lady taking the fall because he never has liked black people. This DOJ, we know, has been weaponized, but is this DOJ the actual white supremacy that's the greatest threat to this country? I know that sounds like a joke, and it should be just a joke. I could give you thousands and thousands of cases of fentanyl killing people, hundreds of thousands of cases. In fact, if you want to know the numbers, I could give you hundreds of thousands of cases of child trafficking, rape, molestation of children. But you can't give me more than, what, 2 of what you would consider white supremacy? It makes me wonder if Joe Biden is not the tip of the spear. Let's remember that Joe Biden eulogized a Klansman, Robert Byrd, who said was his mentor and spoke at his funeral.
Even once he became power, he always spoke truth to power, standing up for the people he proudly was part of.
Joe Biden has been for segregation and busing nearly his entire career, and it's actually come out to haunt him at times by his own vice president, in fact.
It's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of 2 United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing.
I have to wonder if the real white supremacy that's a threat to this nation isn't who's sitting in the White House. I have to wonder if that's not the real threat, because clearly this administration is a threat to the United States. So it makes more sense that he's the guy and his administration is the actual threat of white supremacy that we've been hearing about all along. Now, I don't want this to get lost in the shuffle about where the true white supremacist is in the White House. This lady getting these charges pressed against her is not right. This is not right. It's like they're trying to, quote, do something. It's one of those situations where, oh, we need to do something. Well, let's throw charges at her and that will make this high-profile story go away. It's still not right. You don't think this lady is only miles away from where Hunter Biden stashed his gun and lied on his own background check? You don't think that she's sitting here thinking of the same thing? She just can't say it. You know why? Because she doesn't have the big name that Hunter Biden has. She's scared. She is absolutely scared. She's not like Hunter Biden, all cocky and pompous, because he knows nothing's going to happen to him. This lady is scared to go to prison. And again, clearly she's got a 6-year-old child. She's probably happy the child hasn't been taken away from her at this point. Again, she is a black woman living in a bad area of town, and she's running the risk of her child being taken away from her and going to prison if she doesn't shut up and go along with these charges. Now, they'll probably suspend the sentence and give her a slap on the wrist to say, we did something. See, we did something. It's not right that this lady is going to bear the brunt of the law being used against her when they will not apply it equally anywhere else. If that ain't racist, then please stop talking about racism, because you clearly don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's so horrible.